guys, hopefully this actually goes a little better because I tried to do the Chris Benoit Dark Side of the Ring Part 2, review on Wednesday, and apparently it failed to download, so I'm gonna have to do it again. Actually thank God that it didn't go up because there was a couple of things that I forgot to mention. Alright, so beginning of the episode is just a recap of part 1, and then they go to Detective Alden and Detective Mundy to go into they went into the house. It was the sheriff of Fayette County Sheriff's Department, police that went in. So they contacted the neighbor, Holly Shrepfer, or I guess that's her name. They got a hold of her because she was walking over I guess she went over to check on them or something, Chris and Nancy. So she comes out and she starts screaming, "Daniel's dead." And they go in, and sure enough, they find Daniel's dead. They find Nancy, and then, they find Chris, all that. They determined that it was a double murder-suicide. Then they kind of go into how everyone found out. Jericho said he found out after he got out of the gym. He had his son with him. Chavo, we already know how he found out. He told that in the previous episode. David found out in Edmonton, in his home country, in Canada. And I guess he punched the cop in the chest because he didn't believe him. And the cop took him for a walk and said, "Look, your family loved you." But they all died over the weekend. Sandra, Nancy's sister, said she had gotten 22 calls because she was in the movie theater or whatever. And she said her parents wouldn't tell her until she was inside of her house. And I guess she freaked out and had to be sedated. Had to be taken to the hospital. Oh my god, this guy. I can't remember his name. Matt something. I cannot remember his last name. He basically comes up and says, discusses basically the crime scene and how basically it all happened. And goes into the history of people using the flying headbutt in wrestling. Harley Race used it, and he had problems. And then he told the Dynamite Kid to not do it, and he ended up in a wheelchair. And then Chris used it, and he ended up basically losing his mind, eventually. And we'll get to that. And I have theories on that, so stay tuned for that. Then they get into all the news coverage, and they talk about how everyone thought it was roid rage, and Chris was on steroids, and all that. Okay, he might have been. But he had 10 times the normal amount of testosterone in him when they found him. But it wasn't roid rage. Like, I don't see how you can pass a test and have steroids in you. I just don't see, something's not right. Because they go on to say that he passed his wellness check, but he had testosterone. I mean, does testosterone not, count or something? Or is there something else going on? I don't know. I'm not an expert on any of that. I did, however, look up some factors on the CTE, which we'll get into. Yeah, but the news coverage was nonstop, and I'll talk about roid rage, and they basically covered the wellness policy. And Vince McMahon, oh my god, I hate the man, I do. But this is the one time that I'm going to say that he was right, because it was not roid rage. If it would have been, they both would have been dead within like minutes, talking to Nancy and Daniel. And anyway, I want to know how Daniel, we'll be talking about this next week too, when we wrap this up, because this is going to be an all week thing. Okay, I'm going to be doing this thing all next week. Try to get this out. However, this weekend I will be doing some TNA related videos. Take a break from this. But yeah, I don't know, they just get into all kinds of stuff. There were Bibles placed next to them, according to the information and the police reports. They say that Chris allegedly gave Daniel Xanax to numb him and then kill him, and used a cord to strangle Nancy. Sorry, I'm not sugarcoating this. If you guys have kids watching this, I recommend they not watch this, unless they understand what all of this is. But I guess, there were a couple searches that Chris did on the internet. One was about the prophet Elijah, and then, because there was a resurrection story about a little boy or something. I don't know, I don't read the Bible much, even though I probably should. And then there was another search that he did that was something about the quickest and easiest way to break a neck. Which, to tell you the truth, people are wondering, oh, well, why did he have a towel wrapped around his neck? That would probably be why. He wrapped a towel around his neck, and he put the cord around his neck, and that's how that happened, probably. There was a suicide note found in one of the Bibles. I think it was the one that was sent to his other family, his ex-wife, and they didn't say who it was sent to, but I'm just assuming it was them or her. I'm actually kind of surprised that they didn't interview Mike Benoit for this. That's Chris's dad, for those of you that don't know. But they did interview Chris Nowinski, a neuroscientist who deals with concussion-related issues now. He used to be a professional wrestler, and then ultimately concussions ended that. So he ended up doing a bunch of research and writing a book on concussions. Well, I guess Chris Benoit was talking to him in the locker room one day, and he said something along the lines of, I'm interested in what you're learning, and I want to know what this is. And, sorry. Sorry for my voice dictation. Or not voice dictation, voiceover. Where was I? Oh, concussions. Yeah. And I guess he gave him his number and was like, call me and we'll talk about this. And I guess Nowinski calls Benoit, and I guess Chris Benoit was like, I'll call you back. Or can I call you back? And Nowinski's like, yeah, sure. I guess there was some kind of disturbance going on. And he contacts Michael Benoit, and Nowinski gives him his theory, and Michael says, you know what, yeah, well, I want to see this done. And they have to have his brain studied, and they found that he had severe CTE. Or that's what the report says anyway. CTE that resembled the brain of an 85-year-old with Alzheimer's. And for those of you that may think, oh, he didn't have CTE, why did he not have trouble getting to the airport, or why did he not have trouble doing this? CTE, in case you didn't know, is also, it's not just memory based, okay? It's like basically affects your entire brain, really, depending on how bad you get it, because you took a lot of chair shots to the head. It's usually started by chair shots to the head, and it affects your emotions. And there's a part of the brain, I think it's called the cerebrum or something, that has to deal with the emotions. And if CTE affects behavioral problems, and we'll be getting into more of that next week when I talk about the CTE theory and how I think it played a role. But yeah, that's just a little insight on the CTE thing. There's more news coverage, and they talk about doing the tribute show, and Jim Ross. Oh my god, I love Jim Ross, I do. But for him to say that it was their fault, that they didn't know what was going on, while the show was going on, I mean, that's not your fault. Like, you just didn't know. I mean, don't blame yourself. You didn't know what was going on. But then they talk about how he was erased, and I'm going to be talking about that too. Next week. I'm going to be talking about how he was erased, and how I think that was a bad idea, because he just, you just can't do that to someone. I understand, yeah, what he did, but there's reasons why you shouldn't do that. And then it goes into just people discussing how they felt about it. Di Malenko, Vicky Guerrero, Chavo Guerrero, their intakes on it. David Benoit. Poor David Benoit. He's a victim in all of this. Honestly. It's a shame people freaking say that stuff about him because of what his dad supposedly did. You know what? For those of you that are doing that, back off. Because David didn't have anything to do with that. Just stop. Jim Ross goes on to say that he doesn't think Benoit should be in the Hall of Fame. I can see this both ways, really. I can see why he wouldn't want him in there. But at the same time, if you guys really opened your eyes or opened this case back up, you'd find some interesting stuff, because there's still stuff that's still unanswered to this day, even 15 years later. talk about a couple fight situations that Chris and Nancy had. I guess Nancy got a restraining order in like 2003, maybe, before all this happened. On Chris. And then they resolved it. You know, I'm not going to deny that he did it. I'm not going to deny that this happened. I'm just saying that I think people need to look at it in a different light, because while he may have done it, I don't think he did it for the reasons that people think. The ending of this episode is really kind of happy, though, because Chris Jericho got Nancy's sister Sandra and David Benoit connected, like talking again. And that was really cool of him to do. You know, Chris Van Vliet did an interview with David a couple years ago. And he talks about this. He talks about all this. And he wants to get into wrestling like his dad. Look. If he wants to do that, then why is anyone stopping him? You know, I don't, maybe not go to WWE right now. You know, because people are still bitter there. Which they have every right to be, but at the same time, you can't just let your bitterness go onto that whole family, because David is innocent. Sandra is too. Oh, that's another thing they talk about, is that Jim Ross showed up at the funeral for Nancy and Daniel, and Sandra kind of got in his face and told him that he wasn't welcome at the wake. Which she says, "Oh, I thought it was a work. I thought that it was a work coming from a mile away." Which I don't really know what to say about that. I really don't. I'm not saying Nancy's sister's lying. I'm not saying that I don't believe her. I'm just saying I don't know what to think about it, because, I mean, it's this whole situation's really crazy. You know? But, yeah, that's my review on Dark Side of the Ring, Chris Benoit, Part 2. So, I hope I covered all my bases. I think I got all the main points. I'll probably be up here. No. Sorry. This voice dictation, your voiceover thing is making me mad. So, I guess I'll come up here tomorrow, maybe at some point, and do some TNA related content. I may or may not watch Slammiversary this weekend, I don't know, on the Fight Network. So I may come up here and do a review of it, but otherwise I'm just going to get the results the next day. So, hope you have a good night.